Hey guys, it's Steve and Matt. This is the class I've been talking about. It's Digital Marketing 101. This is the culmination of 5 years of teaching. I've been teaching this class. It's been sold out every single month for the last 5 years I've been teaching here in New York City. And I'm finally bringing this class online to all of you. I'm so excited. So let's get started. So my name is Steve and Matt. I am the Director of Digital Marketing at First Data Corporation. I have a master's degree in marketing from NYU and a BA in communications from Pratt, and I have taught over 100 of these digital marketing 101 classes right here in New York City. This is the first time I'm bringing this online so I can reach a wider audience and really deliver some really helpful, relevant, engaging information to all of you. And of course, it's completely free. So let's dive into the class. So here's what we're going to learn tonight. We're going to learn how to acquire new customers. This is one of the primary goals that small business owners have when they're looking to grow their business, how to acquire new customers. Number 2, how to keep those customers coming back. Obviously, it's much cheaper to sell to an existing customer. You already have their contact information. They're already familiar with your brand. They trust you. And hopefully they've already liked your brand so much so that they want to buy from you again. So these are the 2 goals that we're going to talk about tonight. So with digital marketing, you always want to start with the goal. There's really 3 things. There's the goal, there's the strategy, and there's the tactic. The goal is your objective. It's sort of the thing that you're trying to achieve. The strategy, think of it this way, it's the way that you achieve the goal, right? It's the method of achieving it. The tactics, this is the fun stuff. This is the stuff that everyone tries to start with. It's Facebook advertising, it's SEO, it's email marketing, it's content marketing. The idea is not to start with the tactics. I've seen so many business owners jump right to the newest flashy thing like Snapchat. That may not be the best thing to do, right? Because it depends on what your goal is. What is it that you're trying to achieve? So always start out with the goal, identify what the goal is first, and then find the appropriate strategy. And then think of the tools or the tactics as the sort of things that you can pick and choose from according to how you're going to achieve the goal. So for example, if we're talking about acquiring new customers, that's goal number 1. The strategy that we're going to use to achieve that goal is to increase our discoverability online. And the tactics that we're going to use are going to be SEO, Google Maps, Apple Maps, Yelp, maybe some advertising, and social media. On the other hand, let's look at another goal. The other goal is going to be increasing your sales from existing customers or getting existing customers to keep coming back. The way that we're going to do that is to achieve an improved shopping experience, whether we're talking about in-store or on your e-commerce website online. The tactics that we're going to use for those are going to be rewards, something called line busting, email, and social media. So again, the important concept here is that you always have to start with your goal. What is it that you're trying to achieve? Are you trying to grow your email list? Are you trying to increase your followers on social media? Are you trying to get people to watch your videos? Are you trying to make sales? What is the purpose of your marketing efforts? That's your goal. The strategy is how you're going to do it. And then the tactics are the tools or the things that you'll do to achieve that goal. So in digital marketing, there's a concept called the hub and spoke model. And really what this says is that you always want to generally be driving traffic to your website. There's multiple benefits for this. Number 1 is that that's where you get to control your conversation. Now, generally, if you're selling on Etsy, Amazon, or eBay, or through a blog or through social media, let's say Instagram page, you can't really control the conversation there. You're surrounded by your competitors, right? On Etsy, for example, you're 1 click away from someone else. When people are on your website, it's only your product. The other benefits are cost. So with Etsy, Amazon, eBay, and other platforms, you have to pay a fee to sell products on those websites. With your website, you don't have to do that. If you're using Squarespace or WordPress or Shopify, for example, all you're really paying is the hosting fee. The other benefit of selling directly on your website is that you get to choose your payment processor. Most people don't think about this. Now, I happen to work for one of the largest payment processors in the world, First Data Corporation. We actually enable e-commerce payments for most platforms. So if you're selling on Shopify or BigCommerce, whatever it is, you can integrate a payment processor of your choice within that website builder. It's really easy to do. Some websites mandate that you use a specific payment processor. So if you're going with Squarespace, for example, you have to use their payment processor of choice, which is Stripe. Now, unfortunately, if you're selling offline in your retail store also, you might be using something else like Square, First Data, Chase Payment Tech, whatever it is. you might be using something else. So there might be a disparity there between what you're using offline and online. It's just important to consider that at this point because there is an extra cost. And sometimes when you're selling on Etsy, Amazon, eBay, and all those other sites, you may not have control over choosing your own payment processor. Generally, with your website, there is a way to control that. So there's a benefit there because you can negotiate rates and maybe get a lower rate than what Etsy is dictating that you pay. On top of that, I would say that the other most important thing is that you are generating traffic to your website. So when people come to your site, we'll talk about this in the next couple slides, Google is recognizing that. They are seeing that traffic is coming to your site from organic, from social, from email, wherever it is, and people are spending time on your site, they're buying your products. Google is paying attention to all of that, and that's important. And if you're sending traffic to blogger.com or your Facebook page, or your Etsy page or Amazon or eBay page, you're not benefiting from an SEO perspective. So it's incredibly important to make sure you're driving the traffic there. Again, the hub and spoke model really just dictates that you drive traffic to your site. We'll get more into this later as it relates to content marketing and what that means and how you actually perform this in a sort of pragmatic way. In general, there are 3 categories of traffic that might come to your site. And if you've ever taken a marketing class, you probably recognize these 3 words. It's paid, owned, and earned. Paid is obviously advertisements. Those could be banner ads, search engine ads, maybe sponsored posts, whatever it is. That's one way you can get traffic to your site. We're not going to touch on that in this class too much because I'm really focused on helping small business owners generate free traffic to their sites. So we're going to focus more on the owned and the earned channels. Owned is really anything that you own. So it could be your YouTube channel, your Facebook page, your Instagram page, any type of social media. It could be any type of blogging platforms you've got out there. And then earned is really where you want to be. Now, if you earn traffic to your site or earn a review, that is something that you did not pay for. You didn't persuade someone to do it. It's just that someone recognized your business. They either wrote an article about it, perhaps in some reputable publisher like the New York Times, and they made a conscious decision to write about you and mention you in that blog post or that article. That is what's referred to as earned media. Another form of earned media would be a review of some sort. So if someone actually wrote a great Yelp review about you, you are earning that review. The third type of earned media is social media. So if someone shares your post, if your post goes viral, you didn't obviously pay for that. That is something that you earned. So those are the 3 types. Again, in this class today, we're going to be focusing primarily on the owned and earned media. Another really important concept is something that I like to call the conversion probability matrix. And what this looks at is really the 4 primary channels of digital marketing. There's advertising, there's social media, there's email, and there's search engine optimization. So let's take a look at all 4 of those and break them down and look at how effective they are in driving conversions to your site and attracting the right prospects to your website. So on the x-axis, you have the conversion probability. And really what the conversion probability is the likelihood that someone will do what you want them to do. And again, a conversion is really some action that you want your prospect to take. Typically it's to buy something, but it could also be to watch a video, it could be to download a white paper or an ebook, it could be to subscribe to your newsletter, it could be to follow you on social media. Whatever you define as a conversion is up to you. But the idea is that on the x-axis, the bottom horizontal axis, is that it increases with the likelihood that they will actually convert. So the further you get to the right, the more likely they are to convert on your website. And on the y-axis, the vertical axis, this is the prospect quality. And again, this measures the likelihood that they are of your typical or ideal prospect. So the higher up they go on that axis, the more ideal prospect they are. So let's look at advertising. Now, advertising sort of sits on the far left spectrum of the conversion probability. And really that's quite obvious because most people don't click on ads. I mean, when was the last time that you clicked on a banner ad? It doesn't happen very often. For me, it's the same reason I don't walk down Times Square, right? When I'm here in New York City, it's not something I generally do. I try and stay away from advertisements. And that's true with most people. So most people really don't click on ads. They're not that effective at converting. Although that's not to say that people don't do it at all. Some people still do click on ads and they do convert to some small degree. On the other hand, the targeting or the prospect quality is really hit or miss. It's really on the entire spectrum of the prospect quality. And that's because it depends on who is doing the targeting for you. Now, if you just learned about digital marketing and you're jumping on Facebook advertising platform for the first time and you've never run ads before in your life, you have no idea how to define your prospect or even what makes up a prospect or the demographic or psychographic info, you might not be very good at defining that. And so you're not going to be able to reach the right people as effectively as you could if you hired a professional, for example. Now, you might get better at time and that might increase, but when you're starting out, the idea is that you're just not that good at it, right? So you might be on the lower side of the spectrum for prospect quality in that case. Now, if you hired a professional to do this or an agency, you might be very good, they might be very good at reaching the ideal customer. And so that's why advertising sort of exists on the spectrum of a prospect quality. Now let's take a look at social. Social media is actually pretty good for identifying people that are your ideal prospects. And that's because people consciously decide to click the follow button to follow your brand when they're on social media. So if I choose to follow a brand on Instagram, I'm effectively saying, hey, I want to hear more information from you. I want your business's posts to show up in my newsfeed because I want to learn about you. I want to stay engaged. That's effectively what they're saying when they follow you. And so inherently, the prospect quality on social media tends to be pretty high, right? Now, if you're paying, and I don't recommend you do this, but if you're paying to get followers, those followers might just be following you because they were paid to do that, which is typically a bad thing to do. They're not your ideal customers. And that's why it's generally really good to just do things the right way. Don't pay for followers if that's your only goal. Those people generally are not ever going to convert to actually be your customers. Of course, on the other hand, if all you're concerned with is a vanity number and having a lot of followers, it really doesn't mean anything. It makes you look popular, but it doesn't result in any actual sales. On the other side, social media tends to be okay for conversion probability. And the reason for that is really the behavior of how people use social media. So if you think about when you use Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter, it's typically when you're waiting in line at Starbucks or you're in bed at night, whatever it is. You're not really in the mood of like buying things. You're really there to engage with your friends, the people that you're following. Could be brands, could be other organizations. Maybe it's like comedy videos, whatever it is you're following on social media. You're not really in the mood of like buying stuff. However, it is a great tool to introduce your brand or product to new prospects. This is a great discovery tool. So Facebook, again, is not great for conversions. Social media in general is not great for conversions, but it's good for allowing people to discover your brands. Now let's take a look at email. Email is very similar in the way that people act on social media. The prospect quality is very high on email because people consciously decided to opt into your email list. Now, if you bought a list, that's absolutely not true because those people didn't have a choice. You added them. And I don't recommend doing that at all. So do it the right way. We'll talk about how to get subscribers for your email list later on. But the idea here is that you want to encourage people to subscribe to your list that actually want to be there. There's a really great book called Permission Marketing by Seth Godin. It's called Permission Marketing. Essentially what it says is that if you can get people to give you permission to be on your list, then you're going to be able to more effectively communicate to them because they are actively asking for information from you. So the idea there is that you give something away for free. Maybe it's an ebook, maybe it's access to an exclusive event, maybe it's a discount on a future purchase. You guys have probably all done that before. Before you buy something, you sign up for the email list and you get 10% off the next purchase. I admit it, I do it all the time. That's a really effective way to get people to subscribe to your list. And what they're doing is they're effectively saying, hey, I want you to send me more information. Send me an email about your product, about your business. I want to hear more about it. That's the concept of permission marketing, and that is exactly why email is really good at converting and also inherently really high in prospect quality. Now let's take a look at search engine optimization. This is in the upper right corner. This is absolutely the most effective channel when it comes to conversion probability and prospect quality. And the reason it is so high in prospect quality is because if you think about how people are searching, when they're online and they're typing in a keyword, maybe it's Greenpoint Pizza Restaurant, maybe it's running shoes, they are inherently actively looking for that product or that service. And so if Google does its job and returns the most relevant result, they are much more likely to buy that product. Unlike advertising, when you're just guessing and hoping that you're reaching the right people at the right time, those people who are searching for these products are looking for that exact product or service in that very moment. So that's why the prospect quality is extremely high. And the conversion probability also happens to be very high for that too, because they're actively looking for it online, which means they're typically ready to buy. And so this is the one thing that we're going to focus a lot of time on in this class. SEO is an amazingly powerful tool for any business, and it's something that I offer. I have other classes, by the way, at DigitalMarketing.School. If you guys want to check that out, there's an entire class focused just on SEO, but we're going to touch on it a little bit here. So one amazing statistic is that 93% of all people start with a search engine when they're going to buy something. They're not going to Yelp, they're not going to Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else. They're going primarily to Google. And that's incredible because that really explains why it's so effective. When you're on the first page, you get so much traffic. So what is SEO? What does search engine optimization stand for? SEO is the practice of improving and promoting a website in order to increase the number of non-paid, that's key, is non-paid, visitors the site receives from search engines. So let's take a look at an example of a screenshot that I took. I just typed in New York City personal injury lawyers, and this is a screenshot of the homepage of Google of the results. And so what you're looking at here is that the first two results are actually advertisements. Those are ads that people paid for to be there. We're not talking about that. That is not organic SEO, right? That is not organic search results. So we're going to ignore those for this class. The ones we are concerned with are right below in position 3, 4, and 5. And so the thing to know about this is that the number one organic position receives 33% of all the clicks. That's an astronomical number. And that goes across pretty much every industry. So that means if 1,000 people are searching for personal injury lawyer NYC, that first organic position will reliably receive, if they're in the first position, 33% of all the clicks, which would translate to about 333 visits per day. And so that person right there is where you want to be for your business because you're going to get a majority of the clicks. So if you're saying to yourself, why haven't I received much traffic since I launched my website? The chances are probably you're not ranking on the first page of Google. You might be in like page 10. And the reality is that most people do not go to page 2. 75% of the users never click to the second page, which means that there's a very good chance that if you're on page 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're not going to get any clicks at all. The other stat to know is that the first page receives about 92% of all the clicks, which means that the organic positions 1 through 10 receive 92% collectively of all the clicks, which is unbelievable. That means that page 2, all the results on page 2 to infinity receives collectively 8%. So that really goes to show you that if you're not on the first page, it's quite obvious why you're not getting the traffic. And so the question you're probably thinking right now is, how do I get to that first organic position? So let's talk about that. So there are over 200 ranking factors that Google looks at, and these are constantly changing. And it's really important to understand that you're not going to be able to do every single one of these things. I've picked out the top 10 or so that I really want you to know. And these are things, most of them are things that you guys can do today to your website to help you rank. So let's dive in and look at this. The first result is backlinks. Backlinks are one of the top ranking factors for any business. A backlink is essentially another website that links to yours. So if you were lucky enough to get featured in a blog article in the New York Times or whatever, that is a backlink to your website. And you want as many of those from as many relevant and reputable organizations, publishers as possible. The next one is public versus private who is. In general, Google loves transparency, so they want to see that you're a public entity. They want to see that you are they want to know who the owner of your website is. And that's an easy thing that you can change within the registrar. Wherever you bought your domain, you can just specify public versus private. The other one is keyword in the title tag. So again, we're going to talk about keywords and how to pick the right keywords, but the important thing to note is that you want to put your keywords in the title tag and the H1 tag and the description tag, and we'll talk about what those three things are next. The others are content length and keyword density. Keyword density really speaks to how many times are you using your keywords throughout your website. How many times are you using synonyms of those keywords? That's really key, and you don't want to overdo it. So you don't want to be spammy and just stuff your website with a bunch of keywords. You want to use it when it's relevant. And then content length really relates to how long or how much content you have on your site. While there's no magic number for how much content you should have on your site, the general rule of thumb is that you should have at least 500 words per page. That's really what I recommend. Write 500 words about your product, put it on your product page, put 500 words on your home page. Talk about what makes you unique, what's your unique value proposition, what makes you different from your competitors, what kind of services or products do you offer, how long have you been in business, what's your philosophy, all that good stuff. That will give you a lot of information to talk about and an opportunity to plug in a lot of those keywords. And again, the important thing to note here is that Google is paying attention to all these things that you're doing on your website. So Google has these little spiders that's featured in the middle here, and they're constantly running around the internet and looking at websites and analyzing all this stuff on your website. And if your website is not adhering to these rules and best practices, those spiders are going to report back to Google, and Google's algorithm is then going to rank you accordingly. The next one on the list is page load speed. So page load speed really speaks to how quickly your website loads. It's really important that your website loads in fewer than 3 seconds. Most people leave after the site, leave your website if it does not load within 3 seconds. And so right there, you're doing all that work to get that traffic to your site, and it's not loading. People are just bouncing. So that's an easy one to do. And we'll talk about specifically what you can do to make your website load really quickly. On the left side of this chart, there are a bunch of things that you may or may not be able to do. And the reason I mention these is because some of you may be in the position right now when you're just starting out. You may be launching a new website and you haven't chosen a domain yet. If you're in that position, it's better to just buy a domain as soon as possible. Don't wait to do it, because domain age is a ranking factor. So all things being equal, if a website owner has purchased a domain 20 years ago and a website owner, another one, a competitor, bought it yesterday, and it's exactly the same, type of products and services, the one that purchased the website or domain 20 years ago would probably rank higher because it's an older domain. It's more established. It's seen as more trusted by Google. Another one on the left side is the keyword in the top level domain. This basically just means that is your keyword in your domain name. So if you're a restaurant, or if you're, let's say you're a pizza restaurant in Brooklyn, if your domain name is riabellapizza.com, you've got pizza in the keyword. That's a good thing. I'm not saying suggesting that you should go out and change your domain name right now. If you've owned your domain name for a very long time, that's obviously a more important thing, so keep it the way you've got it. But if you're in the position right now of choosing a domain name, you should take some time to think about the keywords as part of that. And in my website class, I go over the best practices for choosing the best domains. I give a lot of examples of what is good and what is bad. So be sure to take that class too, because that one will give you a lot of insight when you're choosing your domains. The second to last one on the list here is keyword as the first word in the domain. This one is less important, but I still think it's worth mentioning. So if you're going to choose, a new domain name, it's important to put that keyword ideally in the first couple words within your domain name. And the last one is domain penalties. So obviously, if Google has ever penalized you, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been penalized ever, that's fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. Be really careful not to do anything unethical. One example of this that people used to do, and this is an example of what's referred to as black hat SEO. You don't want to do this. The idea is that you would put a bunch of keywords in white text on a white background. I don't think anyone else ever does this anymore, because Google has caught on to this and has made it a severe penalty for people. So that's an idea of black hat SEO. The idea is that you would put all those keywords on your website and you would try and rank for those keywords. But then the problem with that is when people go to your website for a keyword that they typed in, it's on your website, but you may not sell that product or service. And so what they're going to do is they're going to go to your website and they're going to bounce. And the reason that Google is paying attention to that is because they're concerned with the integrity of their product, which is the search engine. And so they see that as a negative experience for their users. And so what they decided a long time ago is that they're going to take a stance that if anyone is engaged in unethical practices like that they're going to penalize those domains. There's a lot of other reasons you can get penalized for Google domains, and if you want to check that out, go ahead and look in the description, and I'll include some links for domain penalties. Now, one other thing you want to pay attention to when you're first starting out, or even if you have a long-established website, is the reason that people search online. And primarily, it's because they're doing research. They're looking to buy a product or service, and they're comparing products and services, right? So make it really easy and provide content for people to compare your product against your competitors. What is it that you do differently? Quite simply, this could be in the form of a product comparison page. You can show all the benefits of your product, and then you can show your competitors and explain how they don't do what you do. That makes it really easy for consumers, prospects to actually purchase from you in a way that makes it super simple. The second reason that people search is to shop, obviously. And so the idea here is that you want to make it easy when they get to your website to buy from you or to sign up for your service. And so the idea is that you would put in your navigation just a link to buy or shop. And you'd be surprised how many business owners I've met with that I've taught that do not have a link to buy. They make you go to the bottom of the page and click on the product or click a couple links to actually find the product and services. The idea is not to make people think. In fact, there's a book by that exact title by Steve Krug. It's one of my favorite books about digital marketing, and there's a link in the description if you guys want to buy that book from Amazon. It's called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. Amazing user experience book and really highly relevant to any person, any business owner or digital marketing professional out there that wants to learn more about user experience. And finally, the last reason people are searching online is for hours, phone number, and location. So the tip here is to make sure that those three things are very clearly represented on your website. And the general rule of thumb is to put that above the fold. So don't make people search for your phone number. Make it really easy for them to call you if that's what you want them to do. Make it easy if you own a physical business, somewhere geographically that they can actually get directions for your business with the address. Put that in the navigation, typically in the top right of your website. It would be a good idea. Just make it easy for them. Again, that book is called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. Excellent, excellent digital marketing book. So with search engine optimization, I use this analogy a lot. Before you start to drive traffic over to your website, it's a good idea to make sure that it's optimized. Just in the same way that before you invite people over, to sell your house or to have a house party, whatever it is, you want to make sure that your house is clean. So the same goes true with websites. Make sure that your website is optimized according to Google standards before you start doing all the other marketing, which is exactly why I'm showing this class for free, because it is the most important thing you need to do before you do any other type of marketing. When you start sending traffic over to your website and it's not optimized, the users are going to pay attention to that, and Google is going to pay attention to that, and it could detract from your ranking and your conversions on your site. So let's take a look at all the things that you can do to optimize your site. And these are highly actionable things that you guys can do right now after this video. Number one is to choose at least 3 keywords to rank for using Google Keyword Planner. Google Keyword Planner is a free tool offered by Google. Essentially what it does is it taps in to Google's resources and it tells you precisely how many people are searching for your keywords every single month on average. And this is a really helpful tool because if you're going after keywords, you want to make sure that they're high volume. You want to make sure that there's a lot of people searching for those keywords. You don't want to go after something that only 10 people are searching for every month. That wouldn't make any sense. So when you're doing your keyword research and you're using Google Keyword Planner, make sure that you choose keywords that are something of high volume, meaning that they're meaningful to you. So if you sell a product for $10 and only 10 people are searching for that keyword that relates to that product, probably not the best keyword to go after. You probably need to go after something that's in the thousands. However, if you're a real estate agent or someone that sells a high ticket item like a car or something else like that, you could probably get away with going after keywords that are only 10 searches per month, because if you make one sale, that could represent thousands of dollars in commission for you. So just keep that in mind. It's whatever's meaningful to you and your business. So once you identify what your keywords are, the next step is to take those keywords and strategically insert them into the key areas that Google is looking for. Number one is the title tag. This is one of the top places that Google's looking at when they're looking at where to rank you. And the idea is that you want to put your keyword in the first couple words of your title tag. So let's take a look at what a title tag is. Essentially, a title tag is the biggest text on the Google search results page. It represents the page itself. Now, the key thing to know here is that every page gets its own unique title tag. So don't think that you could just produce one title tag and apply it to every page on your site. That's not the case. every single page deserves a unique, 100% unique title tag. So you don't want to repeat it. There is a character limit also that you got to pay attention to. It's 65 characters. Anything more than that will result in a title tag with an ellipses, the 3 dots. Google sees that and they will actually derank you as a result because you're not paying attention to the character limits. It's also a bad user experience. The other thing to know about your title tag is that you always want to follow a similar format to what you're seeing here. Generally, you want to have your keywords or set of words that you're trying to rank for. Generally, put them in the first 3 keywords if you can within the title tag, but make it relevant to what that page is. So if it really is about New York rentals, then fine, put that. But if it's not, then put whatever is relevant. Don't force it by stuffing in keywords that are irrelevant to what that page is about. The second factor that you got to consider is putting in your brand name. And usually this is done by putting a vertical slash and then your brand name after. And that really ensures that anyone who searches for your brand name is going to find you because you're going to show up on the first page. The next thing to pay attention to is the description tag. And the description tag is the gray text underneath the title tag. And every page should get a unique description tag as well. The one thing to know about description tags is they are not considered a ranking factor by Google. They used to be a long time ago, but no longer. And so the question is, well, if they're not a ranking factor, then what are they good for? And the answer to that is that they are an opportunity for you to persuade the people that are looking at your search results to click on your link. So think of it this way. All things being equal on the page, if everyone has a title tag, that's roughly the same. It all says New York rentals, whatever. If you're searching for New York rentals, pretty much all the title tags are going to say that. Now, the description tag is the opportunity for you to make a call out about what sets your business apart from all the competitors. And quite frankly, Keller Williams' title tag here is not that great. It really just talks about the fact that you can find New York rentals in their page. Well, no duh. Like I would hope that if I'm typing in, New York rentals and a real estate company says that they can help me find New York rentals, I would expect that, right? That's like par for the course. Now, I happen to know a little bit about Keller Williams, and I know for a fact that they are one of the top real estate companies out there. So a more effective description tag for Keller Williams would be something like, we are the #1 real estate provider in New York City. We have sold over $1 billion of real estate in the last year alone. Click here to help us sell your house. That would be a more effective title tag or description tag because it includes a unique value proposition. It also includes a call to action. So the other thing about description tags is you always want to include some little element that gets people to take an action, whether it's download a white paper, click, call, get directions, whatever it is. Tell them what they want to do. And we're going to cover that in the strategy class a lot. We're going to help you develop a unique value proposition. We're going to help you develop and write your elevator pitch. And that is all covered in the strategy class. So if you guys are interested in that and you haven't done that yet, definitely participate in the 6-class series and you guys will learn a lot. Very clearly, it's very important in almost every location on your site. The next place you want to put your keyword is in the H1 tag. And the H1 tag really just stands for H1. It is your header 1 or largest header on your page. And you specify that in your website builder. If you're using Squarespace, you just click on the text, highlight it, and you just change it from regular text to H1. And that makes it large, number 1. Number 2, in the background, in the code, it actually specifies that it's an H1 tag. And that sends a signal to Google spiders that this is important text. And you want to tell Google that because you want them to know what the page is about. And it's an opportunity for you to include your keywords. A little tip here is that you can just make your title tag and your H1 tag the same. So that will save you a lot of work. Now you've only really got like 2 things to edit. You've got your title tag, which you can also use as your H1 tag, and then you've got your description tag. So that should save you guys a lot of work while you're writing all your metadata. And then finally, you want to include your keywords in your body copy and your blog post. Body copy is essentially your product copy or any type of words on your page, maybe on your home page, wherever it is. That's considered body copy. Make sure your keywords are placed within there in relevant locations. Again, do not keyword stuff. Don't throw the keywords in there just because you think you need to. Put them in there when they're relevant, and feel free to use synonyms as well. That works just as well. And last but not least, there is the blog post. It is extremely important to blog. If you guys are not blogging, I really recommend it. I'm going to show you guys a really cool tool called answerthepublic.com. And what this does is it allows you to find ideas of what to blog for. We spend a whole 2 hours of this on the content class. So if you guys want to learn more about content marketing and finding ideas and best practices for blogging, definitely check that class out because it's super helpful for content marketing. Another thing you want to do in this checklist is check for broken links. This sounds like a really ridiculous thing to say, but yes, it's true. Sometimes websites do have broken links for a variety of reasons. Number one, maybe you linked to a page on your own site that you got rid of and you forgot to update the link. That results, when someone clicks on that link, in an error 404 page. You guys have probably all seen that before. It's a bad user experience. Google spiders see that and they recognize that that's a bad thing. And so the idea is to eliminate those as soon as they happen. If you don't have the option or are now just learning about broken links for the first time, what you can do is go to brokenlinkcheck.com, run a free scan on your website, and it'll tell you where all your broken links are. All you have to do is go back in your website editor and fix them. The other reason you might have a broken link is because maybe you linked off to another website. Maybe it's a publisher. Maybe they got rid of the article. Maybe it's someone's Instagram account that changed their name, whatever it is. That page no longer exists. It results in a error 404 page, which is a broken link. Again, really easy thing to do, makes a big difference. The other thing you've got to pay attention to is the page load time. And this is really important because, again, as we learned before, if your page is loading slowly, that means people are bouncing. But it's also something that Google looks at. So if your page is loading more slowly than 3 seconds, they're going to see that and they're likely going to derank you. The primary cause of a slowly loading page is large file size. There's a couple other reasons, but that's probably the main cause of your website loading slowly. So one thing you got to do is when you're uploading images to your site is make sure that they're generally less than 100 kilobytes in file size. I've seen a lot of artist websites out there that have 1 megabyte file size images. That is absolutely ridiculous in terms of file size. That means every time someone is going to your website, they are having to download a megabyte for every image. That's way too much. Artists, photographers are notorious for this, so definitely be sure to check that out. One thing I want to mention about this is that it's not always easy for someone who's not a graphic designer to resize file image sizes. So if you are lucky enough to know how to use Photoshop, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that you need to use the file save as method or the save for web method, and you do the 4UP. And what you can actually do is see what you're trying to do is strike a balance between what looks good and what is a low file size. Because obviously as you decrease your file size, the image quality goes down. And you don't want your image to look pixelated. So you've got to strike that balance between what looks good and what's a low file size. Once you've found that balance, you then save the file as a JPEG. Make sure it's 72 dpi, a JPEG if it's a photo. If it's a vector graphic, you could save it as a PNG, and then make sure it's RGB and not CMYK. Those are really the 4 things you've got to make sure of when you're saving file sizes or file images. The other thing is name it something relevant. So make sure that it's relevant to what the image is, and if you have the opportunity, include your keywords in that file name and in the alt text. That's really going to help out your SEO a lot and improve the performance of your site and make your prospects really happy because your site is loading so quickly. If you don't have the luxury of being a graphic designer and knowing how to use Photoshop, that stuff probably made no sense to you. So the one thing you can do is go to Fiverr.com. I'll include a link to Fiverr in the description here. If you guys want to go to Fiverr and just hire a graphic designer for like $5, that's what that site means, Fiverr. Everything's like $5 or increments of $5. It's like a 99-cent store for digital marketers. It's amazing. And so you go there and you say, hey, I need some help resizing all these images. Here's $5, resize these 20 images. They'll do that for you, and they'll have it done within 24 hours. It's super helpful. You don't have to know anything about all that complicated RGB, 72 dpi stuff I just mentioned. But obviously, if you know how to do that stuff, definitely do it yourself because that'll save you $5. The next thing you want to do, once you optimize your entire site and everything's done, one of the last things is to create a sitemap. Now, I don't know what content management system you're using, but if you're using Squarespace, Wix, or WordPress, or Shopify, there are really easy to use plugins. And in fact, Squarespace does it automatically. All you got to do is type in your domain name and then /sitemap.xml, and it'll automatically generate a sitemap for you. You take that sitemap and you put that into Google Webmaster Tools. Google Webmaster Tools is a free tool by Google that basically just allows you to tell Google to recrawl your website. So all those spiders that we talked about that are constantly crawling the internet, what you want to do is after you optimize your site is you want to tell those spiders to come back and reevaluate your site, right? Because after you've optimized it, it's obviously in much better shape, and you want to reinvite them back to have them evaluate it to hopefully rank you in a higher place than you were before. And so that's how you do it. You take your sitemap, you sign up for Google Webmaster Tools, and you tell Google to recrawl your site. That is the last step for SEO. And once you've done that, you will hopefully be ranking in a higher position. This is all what's considered on-site SEO. Now, if that sounds like a lot of information and you just want to get a quick gauge of where your website is, if you already are lucky enough to have a website built already, all you have to do is go to websitescore.org, and this is a free service that actually just evaluates your website. It tells you how quickly it's loading or not, and tells you if you have your keywords in your title tag and the description tag and the H1 tag. It'll tell you what your social score is. It's an incredibly powerful tool. It's free. It takes like 15 seconds and you get a PDF report of everything there is wrong with your website. It's incredibly helpful. I recommend everyone just run their site through this like every 6 months just to make sure it's performing well. And again, it's like a checklist. So afterwards you take that PDF and you just go line by line and say, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to fix that. And at the end, you'll hopefully have a very highly performing website. Now let's focus on offsite SEO. Offsite is essentially backlink building. It's everything that you can do off of your website to increase your ranking on Google. Now, backlinks are notoriously difficult to get. If you're really good at PR and you have a lot of time to focus on this, one really effective strategy is to write articles for publishers and bloggers and send them to them and say, hey, I wrote this article and I really think your readers would really appreciate it. Would you mind posting this on your blog? And now the benefit for that publisher is that they get a free article. The benefit for you is that you're linking to your website in that article, so that counts as a backlink for you. So that's one way of doing it. There are other ways of getting backlinks, and another is hiring a company to basically do all that work for you. You would pay them to write the article, to outreach to the publishers, to follow up with them, because that is a lot of work. Because if you're going to do this yourself, you really have to dedicate about 2 hours a day just on trying to get backlinks. So let me walk you through sort of like the step-by-step process. Now, essentially, if you wanted to go get a backlink, the first step would be to identify what are the websites, the publishers that I want my links to be on. If I'm a restaurant in Brooklyn, maybe I would want it to be in like eater.com, Time Out New York, New York Times dining section, all the popular publishers that are out there that talk about food. I'd want to be in those. So the first step is to come up with a list. Maybe 100 is a good place to start. And then what you're going to need to do is find a way to contact those publishers. Now, contacting New York Times and Eater, that's not always an easy thing to do. I'm not saying it's not possible, it's just going to take a lot of time. So I usually build this in Excel if I'm doing any sort of SEO, and I'm going to come up with a list of all the publications, a list of the people that I think I need to contact to persuade them to get my, my website listed in there. And then I'm going to need to actually find their contact information. So you might see the editor's or writer's name in the article, but how do you go about finding the contact info? That is often the most challenging part, and sometimes you're not going to find it. A lot of these writers, quite obviously, get hit up by a lot of PR companies, and they don't want to be contacted, so they basically hide their contact information. So those are big challenges. And then not only do you have to do all that, but then you've got to write the content, and then you've got to send it to them. So if you did manage to find the person, find their contact info, write the content, you finally send it to them and pitch them, try and persuade them to add that article to their website. There's no guarantee that they're going to do that. In fact, what you're doing is you're basically asking them to do work. And so you're asking them to publish something that they didn't ask for on a website, on their website, and generally they turn you down. It's not something that most businesses or publishers agree to do. So you've got to be persistent, so you've got to follow up, and maybe you work with them eventually to come up with a better headline or a better subject for the article, and then maybe eventually you actually get one. And so that's how you legitimately build backlinks. Another way to build backlinks is to look at what articles other people are linking to. And from there, what you would do is just write a better article. And then what you would do is go to that publisher and say, hey, I actually have a better source of this information than what you're currently linking to. Would you consider linking to me instead? And so that's one way you can establish backlinks. Again, if you wanted to, you could hire a company. I believe websitescore.org also does backlink building, and they do on-site SEO services. So if you're looking for someone to sort of do all the SEO for you, that's a great company. They've been around for a long time and they're pretty well established. So they're fantastic for that type of stuff. So once you've got your content, what you want to do is repurpose it. You want to distribute it out there into the world on your social media, in your email, maybe produce a video, put that on YouTube, put it on Vimeo, put it everywhere, and drive back to your website. Remember, in the beginning of this class, And in the strategy class that I teach, we talk a lot about the hub and spoke model, the idea that you're driving traffic to your website. And the idea with repurposing content is that you're doing the same thing. Essentially, your hub, your website, is your blog post. And so what you do is you start out by writing a blog post, and you take a short snippet from that blog post, and you post that on Instagram and Facebook and maybe an email, and then you drive the traffic back to your blog post. And again, you're getting the benefit of driving the traffic to your site. You're getting that SEO value. And you're also encouraging people to explore your website, hopefully to buy your products and services. So this is the idea, the concept of repurposing content. And it's really, really effective way to drive traffic to your site and drive interest. The one thing to remember, and I talk a lot about this in the email class, email best practices. And one of the things you should never do in email is list out the entire article within your email. You're forcing someone to read the article within their email client. Not a good idea. You want to drive them back to your website where they can spend time on your site and consume the article there. So let's take a look at an example of someone who is doing content marketing and repurposing content really well. This is River Pools and Spas. I think they're based somewhere in the Northeast. Maybe it's Virginia or West Virginia, something like that. But they sell pools. They manufacture pools and they sell pools, they install pools, and they do a fantastic job at content marketing. And so what we're looking at here is an example of one of their recent Facebook posts. They produced a video. I mean, I think this one happens to be something about like how to heat your pool or cool your pool in the summertime. And what they're doing is they're including a small snippet of the article, and they're trying to entice people to get them to click, to learn more, to go to their site. So remember the hub and spoke model, they're driving traffic to their website. You can see right there that they're linking to their site. So this is a great example of repurposing content. And when you guys have your blog post ready to go, this is the type of stuff that you would do on an ongoing basis. You would pick out a snippet from the article, post it on Instagram, post it on Twitter, post it on Facebook, and link to your blog post. That's the key. And you could use one blog post for like the next year if you wanted to. Maybe every other week you link to it and you alternate between your other blog posts. And that way you really don't need that many blog posts to really engage in content marketing, but you can just alternate and call out different line items from each article. So let's take a look at a really cool blog research tool. This is one of the biggest challenges that I hear that small businesses have. How do they come up with ideas for blog posts? And the answer is Answer the Public. This website is incredible. So basically what you do is you type in any topic and it'll give you all the questions that people are asking about that subject. And the idea is that you'll pick one out, pick a couple, and write blog posts about them because these are content ideas that people are asking about. They want information about this. They're literally typing in Google and they're wondering about certain subjects. So you should answer them. You should actually write blog posts about that and put it on your site. This is a really creative way to find ideas, discover ideas about what to write about. So let's take a look about how to use answerthepublic.com. So what you do is you go to answerthepublic.com. You'll notice the guy that is sort of standing there, he's the seeker. He's going to help you find what it is you're looking for. He's a pretty funny character, the way he's moving around, but it's the search bar at the bottom that you actually want to type in your topic. So just as an example right now, do this with me. Go ahead and type in ice cream, and we can see what the search results yield. So go ahead and click submit, and you can see that he is looking for the search term ice cream, and what actually populates next is a pretty impressive array of all the things that people are searching for when it comes to ice cream. And some of these examples are, what are the best ice cream flavors? What's the most popular vegan ice cream? Is ice cream bad for dogs? So there's a wide variety of topics that you could be looking at when you use this platform. So now let's shift gears away from SEO and all the on-site stuff. Let's talk about some of the other free things that you can do for your business to increase your discoverability online. And one of the most important things you can do if you have a physical business, or even if you have a home studio or home office or a service-based business, as if like a CPA or architect where you work out of your home, you can get on Google Maps for free. And obviously Google Maps is literally the mapping system that you download on your phone, on your iPhone or your Android device, and the map that appears on the desktop version of the web. So Google Maps is free. All you've got to do is go to google.com/business, and you get to respond to reviews. You get to include your hours of operation. You can include a link to your website. Doesn't count as a backlink though. And you get to include your products, a list of your products, and images of your product or your service or your restaurant, whatever it is. And this is a great way to increase your discoverability. Especially if you live in a major city like New York City, there's a lot of people searching on Google Maps. And so this is one more opportunity, free opportunity for you to show up in front of millions of people. Now, Apple Maps is exactly the same. Not many people use Apple Maps as much as Google, but it is still a popular tool. A lot of people don't change the default mapping system on their iPhone, so they still use it. And just like Google Maps, you have the opportunity of being on Apple Maps and you get the same benefits. So go to mapsconnect.apple.com to sign up for free for Apple Maps. And last but not least is Yelp. There are more Yelp users now than there have ever been. It's an incredible platform. Love it or hate it, it's very popular for business owners. If you have a physical business, this is a great opportunity to increase your discoverability online. Again, you can respond to reviews, you can include hours of operation, pictures and videos of your business, a link to your website. It's an incredibly powerful tool. Now, the thing about Yelp is that they often show up as the number 2 source of information on Google when you're searching for something. And if you're the number 1 result on Yelp, that means you're 1 click away from the first page of Google. So there's like a little creative way that you can get a lot of traffic to your site. So let's talk a little bit about Facebook. There's really 3 types of Facebook posts that you can have. There's organic. Organic posts are the free posts that you create, right? Those are really messaged to your followers, people that have already chosen to follow your business. So when you create an organic post, you're not really reaching a new audience unless hopefully your post goes viral and then you're shared with potentially millions of other people. Typically that's not the case. When you're creating an organic post, it's only your followers that are seeing it. So if you really want to reach new audiences, new potential customers, you've got to pay for that. And this is something really smart that Facebook did a while back. In the early days of Facebook, I remember when I signed up, I think it was sometime back in like 2006 or something, what they would do is they would share your organic posts with any number of people who related to you and your friends and family. So really back in that day, you really didn't have to pay to get your business out there, but nowadays you do. Advertising, what you can do is you can boost an existing organic post to help you reach a wider audience. You can start for as little as $5. It's really easy to do. You don't really need an advertising agency to help you do that. It's a really effective way to just reach a broader audience with your posts. On the other side, there's the professional ads. And that's a little bit more complicated. I really recommend hiring an agency to help you out with that. It doesn't really cost that much money, but it really does allow you to target specifically the types of people that you want to reach for your business. And there's a whole class just on social media marketing that I teach. So if you're interested in that, definitely check that out. It's really worth it. We spend 2 hours just on social media. Have you ever tried to buy something and then not purchased it for whatever reason, and then the next day you see an ad for that same product? That is actually called remarketing, and you as a business owner, as a digital marketer, have the power to do that. It's called retargeting or remarketing. And essentially what you do is you place a cookie or a pixel on someone's browser, and it basically tracks what product that they added to their cart, and then you have the ability later on the next day when they are shopping or reading the New York Times or browsing Facebook to show them an ad for that product. And what that does is it increases the conversion rate for that product, because the idea is that they're already familiar with the product, they already expressed interest in it, and they already intended to buy it, but for whatever reason they didn't. Maybe they had to go make dinner, maybe they closed their laptop, maybe the battery died, whatever it was. They didn't buy it. So you remind them, a gentle reminder saying, hey, like here's the product we're looking at. You want to consider buying it again or buying it this time. And it generally increases the conversion rates dramatically. And that's something that's built into Facebook advertising at no extra cost. It's entirely free as part of the advertising platform. So it's definitely something you guys should check out if you're interested in that. And the next thing that you can do with Facebook is something called A/B testing. A/B testing is essentially a scientific method that says that you're going to determine the most effective converting advertisement. And there's many different forms of A/B testing and use cases on many different platforms, but let's use an example of watches on Facebook. And so what you want to determine is which watch is going to sell better. Is it the brown watch or is it the black watch? And so what you would do out of a total population of people you're marketing to, let's say it's 1,000, you would take 100 people and show them the black watch. And you would take another 100 people and show them the brown watch. And whichever ad performed better, whichever one got more sales, is the one that you would show the entire 800, the rest of the remainder population to. And the idea is that you would effectively increase your conversions that way because you did a little test and you know which one is better. And you can A/B test your website, you can A/B test your subject lines in your emails, a lot of different things you can do. So let's shift gears and talk about improving the shopping experience. Whether you have an online store or a physical store, there are a couple of really important things that you can do to make the customer's experience really good. Because it's always cheaper to sell to your existing customers than it is to acquire a new customer. So let's take a look at something called rewards. If you guys have ever been to a coffee shop or got one of those punch cards from any type of business, that is something that you guys can do directly from your point of sale system. There's something called Clover Rewards, which is really smart. And what you do is you actually tie it into your POS device. And all you got to do is type in your email address. The customer types in their email address at the time of checkout, and it remembers them. You could also use your email or your phone number, and it'll remember that person next time they come to your business and buy a cup of coffee or purchase one of your services. They will be recorded, and they will essentially be given a star. And when they get 10 of those things, they get one free, or however you decide to run the rewards program. But this is something that you guys can do directly within your POS system. You don't have to give away those ugly punch cards anymore. And the other topic I want to talk about is something called line busting. This is a really cool concept. I got my local cafe to start doing this. And so what they do, I noticed a long line out in the morning. It was really deterring business because no one wants to wait like 10 minutes in line, especially when it's freezing cold outside in winter. So they picked up one of these devices called the Clover Flex. And basically what this is a handheld device. And what they would do, they had one of the baristas, when it got really busy in the morning during rush hour, they would walk around outside, take the order, and give that customer the receipt, because it's also a receipt printer, which is pretty amazing. It's cordless, it's wireless, you can walk around with it, the battery lasts for hours, it's absolutely incredible. And they would give that customer the receipt, and then that person can go talk on the phone, they can go sit down, they can go to the bathroom, whatever they gotta do. And then the barista would call their name, and then they would present the receipt and claim their drink. So that's a concept called line busting. If you guys have ever been to an Apple store, that is exactly what Apple does. They use a device very similar to this. In fact, the Apple store actually sells Clover products. So if you guys are interested and you want to pick up a Clover, go right to the Apple store and you can pick up one of the Clover Go's and actually just get started pretty much right away with accepting credit cards. And again, the primary function of this is to accept credit cards. So you're checking someone out, not in the line, and you're able to give them a receipt at that same time. The other really cool benefit for retail stores is that if you need to check inventory for someone, instead of actually going down in the basement, you can actually use this thing, the Clover Flex, as a barcode scanner and scan the inventory right on the spot. And so that way you don't have to disappear. And obviously what happens in that situation is sometimes people get annoyed and they just walk out the store and you lose a sale. So instead of letting that happen, what you do is you stay with them, scan the product they want, check the size, and see if it's in inventory. If it is, you can actually check them out right there on the spot without them ever leaving your side. And that's really going to dramatically increase your sales. That was a lot of really helpful information. I hope you guys enjoyed that. One thing I want you to do right now is go to the link below in the description and go to DigitalMarketing.School and check out the classes that I offer. I talked about 6 classes in this class today. This one obviously was free. There are an amazing array of classes for you. There's strategy, there's content, there's how to build a website, there's search engine optimization, there's email, and there's social media. So you guys are getting 6 classes for an incredible value. So check that out. If you guys really like this, go to DigitalMarketing.School and check out those 6 classes. And you can start to transform your business and start doing the digital marketing yourself. And if you're not running a business, if you just want to know more about digital marketing and grow your career as a professional digital marketer, this class is for you also. Again, it's DigitalMarketing.School.